Hello everyone. Thank you for coming early today. Appreciate that. Thank you first also to our Sport Boost for setting this panel up in this Sport Tech vertical, and also obviously to the organizers of the South Summit event. Brilliant first time that I'm here, so very happy to join all the people that is coming to South Summit. So with no further ado, because I don't want to take a lot of time, we are short, so I want to be very concise. Let's start with the panel today, which I personally think that is very interesting because it's a trend that we are seeing of generalist funds coming into sports. So let's see if with today's talk we can understand a bit more what is the reason and why this is happening. So I would like to start with Jeff, that is the closest to me, but also because I would like to tell you big congratulations, huge congratulations for such a good year, the promotion of Leganés last weekend, but also Cancun in Mexico. We were talking in the backstage. Also, Francesco and Pedro, thank you for being here. So maybe what we can do is start with you, Jeff, and also follow with Francesco and Pedro with a brief introduction of yourself. Like, if you could tell us what you do and how did you get into investing into sports?
Great. Well, thanks, Luis. And it's great to be back at South Summit. I was here last year on a different panel, but enjoy this opportunity to talk about sports and what we're doing. Blue Crow Sports Group, it's not really a generalist fund, but it is a group of investors, myself included, that got together about 3 years ago with the idea that there's lots of pockets of value in the sports world, specifically focused on the world of football, meaning soccer for you Americans listening. And we looked globally at different opportunities, decided to make investments in Mexico, in Spain, in Czech Republic, in the United Arab Emirates, and also have some investments in other parts as well. And really the idea is to create value by having a portfolio of sports investments and to build infrastructure centrally that can help manage those investments and help extract value from those investments. So we've been at it for just under 3 years. And like you said, we had a bit of success recently. I'm also the president of Club Deportivo Leganés here in Madrid. And on Sunday, we not only achieved our promotion to La Liga, but we also won the second division La Liga High promotion. So there's a big trophy in my office. Really excited about that. And 2 weeks before that, in the team we own in Mexico in the second division, won its second title, the Campeón de Campeones, which normally is the title that allows your team to get promoted to first division. But for various reasons right now, promotion is frozen temporarily, hopefully, in Mexico. But it's been a lot of fun running the clubs and figuring out how to develop centralized synergies, if you will, so that all the clubs can benefit from the investment that we're making. So we'll probably continue to focus on football exclusively for the next few years. We've got ideas to buy other teams in other markets, but eventually we do want to get into other sports.
Thank you. We will come back to that later and also ask you about your view as American investing in Europe. But Francesco, maybe if you could tell us a bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. First of all, thank you, South Summit. Thank you, Sport Board, for inviting me. I'm an investor at P101. P101 is one of the biggest investor in Italy, VC investor, and one of the biggest in Southern Europe. Right now we manage a little bit less than 500 million across 3 funds. And as VC investor, our approach, our investment thesis is completely agnostic in terms of verticals in which we can invest in. We are the typical Series A investor, so we came after the seed phase. Our minimum ticket is about 2 million, up to 5 in the initial phase. Then we can top up with follow-ons up to 10, 12 millions. As an agnostic investor, we can invest in everything, more or less, and the Sportex investments are one of the most interesting for us.
Okay, so Pedro,
Thank you, Luis. It's a pleasure to be here today. It's hard to explain for me lately what do I do for a living because I do so many things right now. But I'm some sort of a business influencer. I have a podcast, and especially today, I am the co-founder of Blast. We are on a mission to democratize the investment in startups, especially for the retail investors. So actually, what we are finding is that communities, especially online communities, are a huge lever in order to build products or online. So our investment club invests in startups. We're not investing in sports yet, but we have an eye on that vertical. It's something we would like to get into. And yeah, actually, a very important thing about what we are doing is the educational part. Because when you reach so many people, actually the VC world or investment world in general is quite niche. So we are trying to educate retail investors on what do we do so that they understand all of it, the whole thing, how these investments work, and they can decide if it's something they would like to add to their portfolio, because it's something that usually is not that reachable for them. They can buy stocks easily, they can buy some crypto, many of them can buy a flat as an investment, but the VC world is something very selected, so we're trying to open that to the world and democratize it.
Thank you so much. Let me, by the way, tell you just few seconds about myself and what we do at Mapfre. Because I run a portfolio for Mapfre that invests into listed equities. So we are investors in several companies, in the stocks of several companies that are listed in the stock exchange. And from, let's say, 2019, probably the worst time in ever, we started investing into sports. And I see this was the worst time in ever because then the pandemic came. But we continue to see these positive trends into the world of sports. Obviously, when you come to the stock market and the listed companies, our investment universe is a little bit narrower than yours. But right now, we have like 30% of the portfolio investing in sports in different verticals. We are investors in Borussia Dortmund, for example. So we were happy about the development of the Champions League. Also in Ajax, in the Netherlands, not so happy this year. But we also touch on other verticals. We are investors in Technogym, that probably, Francesco, you know well, and also other brands like Adidas, On Running, which is very much in fashion at this moment, also invested by Roger Federer, also Lululemon, Deckers Outdoor, which is the holding company of Hoka, also the running shoes. So this is what we do. We are the closest things to thematic fund in sports in listed companies in Europe, without being so, because we are actually generalist, but we really think that there is a very interesting opportunity there. And actually, part of the moment where we started investing in sports, I was partnering, running the fund with an American manager, and I think that his view helped a lot for developing our investment thesis. So, Jeff, I wanted to ask you, because you have lived the success of the sports industry in the US, and by success I mean on the field, off the field, with the fund engagement, with the business side, valuations raising to the top. And now there are some funds in the US that are raising significant amount of money, like Artox, Ares, all these guys raising billions to invest into sports. And I sometimes say that probably money is in the US and probably in the Middle East as well, but opportunities are probably more in Europe and in Latin America. And I would love to have your view coming from the US and having experienced that development of the industry. What are the similarities that you see in Europe right now? And what are the differences that you are experiencing now that you are running Leganés, for example?
Well, there's definitely an increased interest in the last 5 years, and certainly in U.S. investment groups going into sports. In the past, investing in sports was limited to high net worth individuals who wanted to buy a team for whatever reason. Usually it's more of an ego play. And these high net worth individuals have been very successful at creating value, obviously, in whatever industry they come from. But they get into sports and they sort of stop practicing some of the things that made them good at running their core businesses. They start making emotional decisions. They start reacting to the newspaper and what the fans are saying and all of that. I think the funds have decided that the valuations of these companies, these teams continues to grow. And sometimes it defies logic because you see the P&L of these teams and you say, well, there's no way this thing could be worth $1 billion. And someone buys it for $1 billion and 5 years later it's worth $5 billion. And how does this continue to happen? But I think the funds in the US have just said, we don't know how it's happening, but we want a little piece of a lot of these things so we can diversify our risk and share in just the general upside of the industry. Now, the big four sports in the States are obviously different than the big world sport, which is football. And it's the main difference is the variability of the valuation. In the US, if you invest in an NFL team or an MLB team, you're pretty assured that the industry is going to carry the valuation north. And yes, there's teams that do it better and worse, and some teams that make money, most don't make money. But over time, if you hold it, you're going to be able to sell it for a lot more than what you bought it for, plus cover all the losses. The same thing does apply in European football, except for the fact that there's this little twist called promotion and relegation. Right. And if you buy a team in the first division, you get relegated to second division. That's a pretty good way to burn money. And so that dynamic leads to a completely different mindset and a different way of thinking about investing. I happen to like it. And it's one of the reasons why my group is investing in second and third division teams instead of first division teams, because we want to buy low and go up and build something sustainable. But that's probably the biggest difference. I also think that for foreign investors, and there's a lot in the UK and the Premier League, there's a ton of foreign investors. Here in La Liga, there's more and more every year. There's 3 in the second division. There's 3 Mexican investor groups that have invested in second division teams. I consider my group also Mexican because I was born in Mexico. The foreign investors sometimes think that it's a passive investment when you take a majority stake, but it's not. And if you invest in a local club in Europe, doesn't matter what country, and you think you can manage it from a high rise in New York, you're smoking something, because you're not going to be able to, because the fans and the press and all the stakeholders around each of these clubs, they really belong to the community. And if you're not there understanding what's going on in the community, you're going to get burned. And so that's a lesson learned that I think some folks have had, which is why a lot of the American funds are buying minority investments rather than majority.
And that's true. Some people used to learn it the hard way, but because it's true that many investors wanted to manage the clubs here from far away. So, Francesco, back to you. Maybe, you have told us a bit what you do and very generally why you decided to get into sports. But maybe we can come a little bit more into the detail. What is your investment thesis into sports? And specifically, you have an investor in Deport Village that you sold, if I'm right, and also in FatMap. Maybe you can tell us a bit more about these 2 companies in particular and why. What did you see in them that make them interesting for your overall portfolio?
Yeah, we sold both of them, fortunately. Yeah. By the way, they belong from different sectors because Deport Village is an e-commerce. We sold to JD Sports from UK, whereas FatMap is more a technological solution for outdoor sports. They developed a 3D mapping solution they start with winter sports, then they applied all to hiking, to outdoor sports in general. And I think one of the most important KPI when we have to decide to invest in was the community around those companies, the community, the fan engagement, the users, because both of them, when we invest in, were pre-revenues in the case of FatMap, or with little bit revenues in the case of Deport Village, but they have strong communities behind that leverage all the model, and that is, for example, the reason number 1 that Strava look a great churn from their app, from their solution to FatMap solution, even if for that moment FatMap has zero revenues or a little bit revenues, by the way. And they decided to make an offer because of that fan engagement, that usability, so also the kind of technology behind FatMap was totally super important for the acquisition. So I think in sports tech in general, for my experience, the community can help to create more organic traffic. So that means less investment costs in terms of marketing compared to other kind of sector, I mean. And this also for the engagement factor, I mean.
Mm-hmm. So engagement is actually, Pedro, something that you have worked in the past, and now that you are bringing also into the sports world and into Blast, your new company. Jeff was mentioning also the promotion of football clubs, and quite lately we have seen in the UK this example of Wrexham, this club that was acquired by Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, Hollywood actors. And what they did was to use their personal brand, their personal platform, to leverage on that and improve the revenues of the club and give it visibility and help it grow. And to my understanding, this is kind of what you do also with some of the companies you collaborate with. Maybe you could elaborate on how you can use the new technologies, the new media, and your personal branding to help startups and companies in general to grow?
Sure. I think it's pretty important to understand the context we're living in right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think we're living in the industry of attention. Like last century, like the huge companies around the world used to control, used to make cars, control food, control oil. But nowadays, like the huge companies are just fighting for your attention and mine, actually. Like companies like Facebook, like Amazon, like Netflix, they want your eyeballs to be at their platform. So this is really important. Understanding the level of the attention. We have success cases in Spain that probably many of us know, like Visio, for example, huge success case and making burgers. I know the guys and I talk to them and you're just making burgers as always, and they're yeah. We figure out how to get the attention of our customers. So I think it's huge to understand it, and there are many success cases. You can see the Kardashians building billion-dollar companies. You can see NBA players, Hollywood actors, as you said, football players. Like everybody's doing it because it works, right? Mm-hmm. So in my personal experience, I can. I apply it to both when I'm investing, but also when I'm starting new companies. I was an entrepreneur before having a personal brand, and I know what it is to try to start and make a project grow from scratch, from zero. And now it's just way easier. So when when I want to decide a new idea to elaborate on that and develop it, I just try to find something that I can offer to my community, something suitable for the people that already follow me, and it's way easier. Like in 3 clicks, it's sold out, everything, right? So also when investing into companies as a community, it's also, for example, for us, it's super interesting when we invest into B2C companies, because then I can bring the founders to the podcast. I can promote them a little bit, which is a win-win situation, actually, because when I'm promoting the podcast, the founders or the startup, I'm also promoting that we invest in the startup. So it's a win-win situation for us. And yeah, especially B2C companies are pretty good for this. So that's something we take into account, and it's also something nice in terms of deal flow. Because, for example, even yesterday, like some founders were knocking our door and saying, "We would love to be with you because we have an advantage when we invest with you. It's not only the visibility, but also that when you have such a huge community of investors." So actually, when they invest, they become some sort of ambassadors for the brand, which is especially helpful at the very beginning of the companies, right?
Fully agree. So taking that part, actually, let me very briefly link some of the things that you said with what we do at Mapfre and the companies that we invested. Because as I was saying before, we are investor in football clubs, and probably some of the two main topics of our investment thesis you mentioned, Jeff, like probably in Europe we see more room for operational efficiency, for gaining, making operations better of the football club, but also valuations. If you look at the valuations of US sport franchises, in terms of revenues, for example, you are paying, I don't know, 10, 15, 20, 25 even enterprise value to revenues, while Borussia Dortmund and Ajax, they are trading around 1.5, 2 times revenues. So there is a huge gap, obviously due to some of the things that you mentioned. But also, if I think in terms of potential growth, I probably see more growth in Europe than in the US. And typically, you pay higher multiples for higher growth. So this is kind of an inefficiency that I think that exists in our market, and probably you agree with that. And Francesco, you were mentioning also like the database and the access to the funds and all that, and that remind me about Technogym, because our investment thesis in Technogym is not only about the equipment, it's also about the software and having access to the data of the users of the gyms. Because I think this is very important, especially today. And Pedro, you were also telling how important it is to have someone that gives visibility to the brands and the company, especially at the beginning. And that reminds me a lot about our investment in On Running, because Roger Federer was there almost from the beginning. So the founders, which are, by the way, triathlon runners, they started the company, they did very well. But then in a growth stage, Roger joined, put some money, but also put visibility and his face on the brand, and now they are growing like crazy. So that reminds me a lot about that. So we have like around 4.5 minutes left. So let's maybe think a bit about the future, our predictions for the future, or maybe some verticals in sports that we think that are especially interesting for the coming years, or some things that we will see more and more in the sports industry. So maybe starting with you, Jeff, because you mentioned that at the beginning, you are into football, but also into technology. So I'm very interested about the synergies of both industries that, in my view, are coming together and can help each other.
Yeah, it's really the merging of sports, technology, and entertainment, and all of that wrapped around what these gentlemen said, which is getting eyeballs, getting people's attention. And the world is changing so quickly. The basic sport hasn't changed that much. The rules of football don't change that much, but how it's delivered, how it's consumed, and even in some cases, different versions of it. Like the Kings League is very popular. It's a totally different, more consumable version of the sport for the younger generation. So I think we're going to see a continuation of that. I think Drive to Survive, Formula One was a breakthrough. Everybody's trying to figure out how to do that for their own team or their own league. And consumers want to consume the product, not just go to a stadium, watch a game for 2 hours, go home, and then go again in 2 weeks' time. They want to consume throughout the week. So it's merchandise, it's technology, it's product, it's all these different things. The more you can have touch points throughout the week, throughout the year with your fans, the more revenue you can generate. And that requires different skills than before. If you were a former athlete and you were a professional athlete, you could run a club and you'd do a pretty good job. But these days, it's marketing, it's technology, it's social media, it's all the things around it.
This is very interesting because something that we hear a lot is that now young people consume less sports, and in my view is that they consume it in a different way. But the touch point with the audience is probably more than ever. So Francesco, within the sport tech vertical, I don't know, do you see yourself investing in other sport tech companies or sport-related companies in the future? And in what particular verticals do you see more likely?
Yeah, I think that sports, more than other sector, could be connected with a very different other verticals. For example, fintech, travel tech, media, entertainment. But I think that the most important, before we are speaking about Oura Ring, I think the most important for the next future will be the well-being, the healthcare world. So all of these applications, all this technology could help supporting both sports that is the first prevention to a better state of health, and data that could help also in ensure policy for the next future. So I think that will be the next big vertical in the sport tech.
Okay, so Pedro, last minute is for you. We were discussing in the backstage how important is media nowadays for sports. So I'm very interested in having your view specifically on the evolution of media. You are being part of this transition, of this evolution, so you are in a very good position to tell us a bit more. How do you see the media world in the coming years?
Yes, I think it's quite important to be able to drive the traffic correctly. Like it's something I understood in the very first moment with my podcast, for example. I was looking at young folks in the street, and they were just in vertical format. They like in TikTok, Instagram, and so quick. They are like click, click, click. The attention span is not there anymore. So once you grab the attention in those vertical forms, you can then take them to other platforms to build a relationship with them. That you listen to me for 2 hours in a podcast, and then you feel like you know me. I think something similar. I think they already understand this game, but getting into social media is just necessary nowadays if you want to get to the younger generation, because that's where their eyeballs are. They are not watching TV anymore, like not at all. So. Also, something that is being done pretty well in the sports world is driving attention by, for example, attention to boxing using influencers, for example, or the Kings League is something they do, and actually they don't want to see the most skilled players. They want to see the people they love playing. So I think the format will change a little bit, but sports will always be there, and also I think that the healthcare industry in general, fitness, is going to be all together in the same group.
So, right on time. We were
perfect.
30 minutes, and we were there. So, thank you to the three of you for being here, and thank you everyone. And let's continue with this day that just started. So, thank you everyone.
Thank you.